But look, Sangram, thank you. Like, so excited to have this conversation. Blown away that you're willing to do this. Very, very generous. Just so everybody knows, Sangram is kind of a big deal. And so he's authored 3 books, both a Wall Street Journal and a USA Today bestseller. Billy mentioned he was a co-founder of Terminus, has been involved in countless go-to-market turnarounds. He's been, he hosts one of the largest, I would say, revenue, technology, and revenue related podcasts. Flip My Funnel. If you've not seen it, you should go listen in. He's also one of the top 20 B2B marketing influencers in the world. I mean, look, dude, so it's so excited to have you on here, have you involved. And before we get into the conversation, I want to give a little bit of background. So for all that are watching live, and again, we're live on LinkedIn, we're live on YouTube, we're live here, obviously. So just recently, within the last year or two, finished the book Move. We're going to talk a whole bunch about that book. It's a great book. I read it once in preparation for this, and then I was like, no, this is really good. I'm going to read this again. Like, I got to make sure I actually understood this, because most business books, as you guys know, have like one great idea. This is not the case. Like, this is a very, very dense book. So if you like the conversation today, which despite maybe my engagement, I'm pretty sure you will, go buy the book. It's actually very, very reasonably priced on Amazon. We'll make sure the link is available. It's a fantastic book. And again, he's not promoting it. He didn't tell me to promote it. It's a great overview if you're running into these kind of problems. And after having read it, everybody is running into these problems. So it's not a small thing. So first of all, again, thank you. Super excited to have you here. What made you think to write another? So again, this is your 3rd book. Why did you decide, you're like, okay, I'm crazy enough to sit down and try and write yet a 3rd book? Like, what drove this?
Well, Dave, first of all, thank you for saying all that. And again, if anybody wants to know Dave's price, let me know for promoting my book, and I'll let you know. But I'll go back and tell a quick story. My dad was a professor of economics, and I remember he called me when I was like 9 years old. And he would pop quiz me, like, all right, tell me the spelling of friend and tell me the spelling of stomach. These words were really hard for me to spell out, and I'll make a mistake. And he passed away a few years ago, and I think he would be turning in his grave, knowing that I wrote 3 books, because he knows that it's so hard for me to write. But here's the thing: I learned this the hard way, Dave. That I'm not a writer. What I am, I feel like, is more. I carry the message of it. So when you talked about go-to-market and the fact that it's dense and it has a framework and it gives you literally scorecards and templates for you to do it, because as an operator, I feel like I need that. I need that to run a better company. I need to figure out what's the efficient. We can read all blogs in the world every day, but we need templates. We need resources that we can just go in and implement. So the 3rd book came about right at 2020, right during the COVID time. And the genesis of that was our company at that time, as a founder of Terminus, we were going through all the same challenges that, as you said, everybody's going through right now. When we hit 5 million, it felt like, oh, we arrived. And then next day, it felt like, oh my gosh, we don't know what we're doing. Then we got to 10 million. Then again, we felt like we are entering into this valley of death that didn't make sense at 10 million. And what's wrong? Everything seemed to be working until last week. And what happened? And people don't realize sometimes that your company, you have to reinvent it every few years. So your go-to-market has to be reinvented. You can't play the same playbook every 5 million or every 10 million. It actually completely changes. And I was blown away with that reality. So I started just interviewing and talking to the people that led to the book. And somehow go-to-market is now becoming one of the key areas that every company is overtly communicating and saying, we need to figure this out. Things are changing faster than we can handle.
So I want to hit a couple of things that you said there, because it's so important. Every company, as you grow, there's these like thresholds that once you do it, everything you did that got you there kind of doesn't work anymore. Not entirely, but to a large degree. And every entrepreneur who goes through this evolution literally has to remake their company, because again, just making a company that can get to 5 million, it's like once you've done that, you're like, okay, I got that. I'm going to go do that again, which is why you see a lot of entrepreneurs and frankly, a lot of leaders and a lot of salespeople who are like, okay, we're going to sell the company. I'm going to go do this again. So a lot of people are just self-aware. They're like, I'm done. But if you have ambition to build a $50 million company or a $100 million company or more, you need playbooks. And what usually people do is they're like, well, okay, I'm going to just, for a couple of years, I'm just going to jam this solution that I did before. Companies flatten out, sales leaders plateau, marketing leaders plateau, and then eventually they transition, or finally someone helps them who knows that new playbook. So what you've given here, and we're going to talk about today, is this, it's literally a framework with templates and things like that. So let's start with first the question, what is GTM? What is go-to-market? Because it's a little bit of a vague term, right?
It is. And funny enough, like in the interview process, Dave, and I think you're going to love this, that we interviewed a ton of CEOs, like Brian Halligan when he was the CEO of HubSpot, Nick Mehta, Gainsight, ton of investor, Kelly Ford, who runs Edison Partners, Jason Green, all the way. And then also CMOs, tons, like Megan Eisenberg, Sydney Sloan, and many others. Here's what's interesting, without taking names of others that I clearly did not take, we'll ask the CEO who owns go-to-market, and they won't even blink an eye. And they said, of course I own it. Like, what do you mean owns it? I own it.
Of course, I love that.
Right. And then we go and ask to a CMO or a CRO of the same exact company, hey, who owns your go-to-market? They're like, I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe we all own it. And you know the answer to the question when somebody says, oh, we all own it. Nobody owns it. So this is to your point. The reason I bring that up is because yes, it's hard, it's messy, and sometimes because it says go to market, a lot of times people think, oh, it's a marketing thing, it's a product launch thing, or maybe salespeople might look at it and say, well, it's maybe the channel thing or SDR play or AE and outbound. But in reality, I think Brian Halligan gave me the best answer to this, and I can expand on it if you want, but I put that on the back of the book, and that's his quote. When I asked him that question, he said this to him. First of all, like, he thought for a second, and then everybody got to know Brian Halligan, he was the CEO of HubSpot, going from zero to $1 billion business, went through IPO for SMB and now even mid-market enterprise they have, as you know. And there's so much things that have happened, and they have created this huge community inbound. So all these things. And I'm asking this guy, so this is not someone who just came and became a CEO. He's took the company from zero to public. And he thought about it, and he said, Sangram, I think go-to-market, if he has to define, he'll define it like this. Like, go-to-market is like a product. You have to constantly iterate on it every day, every week, every month. It's not a strategy session that you have at the end of the quarter. That's not go-to-market. Go-to-market is iterative. And the reason he said I, or the CEO, owns it is because who ultimately can make decisions like, should we go in EMEA or should we stay in North America? That's a go-to-market decision. Most people don't elevate the go-to-market decision making to that level. Or, should we give more money to marketing, or should we spend more on hiring SDRs or AEs? That's a go-to-market decision. Your marketing and sales leaders can't make that decision. Are we going to go to a partner route, or are we going to acquire a company? So I think what I have learned in the process, and I hope this book and this conversation helps people think about, is that go-to-market is much more elevated than what most people have thought over the last couple of decades.
So I want to challenge a little bit. And I agree. The CEO has to own it. But, at the end of the day, you need... I guess traditionally, a lot of people thought the CRO, he owns the number, and like, is go-to-market mean revenue generation? Like, who owns kind of the revenue growth, or is it the CMO? Like, a lot of people think like it has the word market in it, so this is a marketing related term. So I probably agree with you. Yeah, but who, at the end of the day, the CEO needs one neck to choke in terms of like, I got to make sure we hit our number. So like, who is that?
Oh, that's a good question. And we run polls on it, and we are doing this go-to-market roadshow, and we have a room of people, and we'll ask this question like for fun. When, if I had people in front of me, I will say, oh, raise your hand. And every time I'll ask this question, most people would say, oh, I think the CMO owns it. Like, our data shows, since we're an analyst firm, we're doing a lot of research on this. Our data shows that 77% of the go-to-market leaders saying marketing owns it. So it's very much there. It's very much, and we're challenging that status quo, saying that, no, you don't. You can facilitate it. you can bring those conversations to it. The CRO has a revenue number, but the decisions that go to market really means has to be at a higher level than you, because if every marketing can change the compensation of a sales leader, or a sales leader can change the compensation of marketing leader for a specific outcome, then then maybe you can. But chances are you can't change the compensation of your peer, and that's why it becomes
has to go up.
And here's another quick note on that. I would never forget this, Dave. When I asked Brian about this, Brian Halligan, again, that conversation is so fresh in my mind. It was so fun, actually, just going through the whole journey around it.
For sure, picking his brain.
He said, I own 3 things, or every CEO should own 3 things. He said, I own the vision for the company, where it's going, and I have to constantly be the person repeating it every day, 10 times a day, to an investor, to our team, to our employees, to our partners, to our customers. I have to continue to say that. But otherwise, who will if he doesn't do that, right? And the second is the culture. If I can get the right people on the team, no matter how great our product is, it's not going to happen. Obviously, HubSpot does great on that. And then the third thing he said is go to market. It's the unsexy part of my job. He said, nobody gives me credit for it, but that's what I do, is when every CEO needs to own it.
So I think that's brilliant. And I would say a lot of CEOs wouldn't own that. I had a conversation with the former CEO of GE, and he gave me 3 things. And that actually was not in his 3 things, which is kind of crazy. There were few CEOs, so I won't point out the one. Here's an interesting thing. And you just said this, there is an emerging role in companies. And again, the challenge you have is you've got a CRO who could win, and then but the company doesn't win, right? So the CRO is like, look, I'm hitting I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but the marketing team is not, or the customer success team is attriting. So it's not my fault. So the problem is if you give go to market to anybody below the CEO, you can have success in any division, yet the company still fails. So I think, I'm 100% on board. And we said this at this event last year, what's interesting is there's a new role called revenue leaders that are emerging, and revenue operations that are kind of emerging in companies that theoretically spans this. I can't count how many, you know this. Every CMO in the world is like, well, it's not my fault. Like I brought the MQLs, but they're not closing them. They're not calling on them. The BD team, I need to own the BD team because they're not calling my MQLs. My MQLs are so good. And then on the flip side, you have the sales leader who's like, no, these are junk leads. It's not my fault. We missed our number, but it's marketing's fault. So this revenue, tell me your thoughts on this new title that's emerging and this RevOps concept that you talked about in your book.
Oh, absolutely. And in the book, that's why I wanted it to be more of an operating manual for people. So we created this after talking to probably hundreds, and this was 2019, right? Like now it's even more bigger and more valuable. This is 2019 when we wrote this, and we created this org chart of what a future might look like for RevOps. And it's really interesting that it's coming to fruition much faster than actually we predicted that at that time. And I've written in the book and elsewhere that it is the second most important role in the company, and that's a head of RevOps. Is the second most important. And I say second purely because CEO has to own that vision, host to drive that thing. Right. And the importance is because this is the person who can answer the most profane question in the history of companies, which is, hey, if I give you $1, what would you do? Where would you invest it? Well, if you ask to the marketing person, of course he or she is going to say, I'm gonna invest in more marketing content or whatever. Salesperson will have their own answer. So is CS product. Everybody will have their own answer. But until this point, until the RevOps actually became a real role and the strategic nature of that role, that question couldn't be answered by anybody else. So CEO has to go to the CFO and they have to do Excel gimmick to figure something out. RevOps is actually going to be able to answer that question because RevOps stays in the center of it. They typically don't report to all these people. They typically should report to a COO or a CFO or a CEO, so they're independent. And finally, I think the best RevOps leader actually are able to tell the CEO and say, you know what? I think we should hire a sales enablement person. Oh, I think, you know what? We need to hire a head of employee relations because it's really nothing to do with numbers. It's like, the people are not doing the right way. So that conversation, you just have nobody until the RevOps actually came on the planet.
So here's what's interesting. Like anyone who works in a B2B or a B2C company knows this drill. You have a board meeting coming up in 2 weeks. And so it's like, what are the numbers? Like, what do we present the board? Whether you're public and you're like, we've got to present this to the street, or you're presenting this just to your board. This is such a maddening process where there's this debate of marketing says it's this, sales says it's this, finance says it's this, and this reconciliation process can take, I don't know that I ever saw it happen in less than a week to 2 weeks of time. And here's the problem. If my entire leadership team, or I'm on the leadership team, I'm a CMO, or I'm a marketing leader, or I'm a sales leader, and I'm like, okay, I have to stop selling. I have to stop marketing for the next 7 days or 14 days or whatever, because I've got to go figure out these numbers. Like, that's what happens every quarter in every business in the world.
Yeah.
This actually solves this problem where there's one source of truth, which, and of course, you ask a CRO, like, who should be in charge of the one source of truth? Well, the CRO should be. You ask a CMO, and they're like, that CRO knows nothing. That person is a moron. Like, it's the biggest cultural clash right before a board meeting. So you show up to a board meeting and you're like, I hope these numbers are right. Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick story. The reason I'm so much in love with RevOps as a really important, again, like I've continued to talk about ABM, and I still think account-based marketing is so important, but still hasn't gone to the level of strategic job that should report directly into the CEO. The RevOps is that kind of job. And what's interesting, this happened in 2019, right before when we were writing the book. Mallory Lee, she joined our team. She became our head of RevOps. So we were very early in adopting this concept. And after 4 years of being a founder at Terminus, every meeting was exactly what you just described. It's like, going back into the time machine and experiencing it. And she came in about a month later. She said, every Tuesday we'll have this executive meeting. So picture this. We walk in that meeting. The first 10 minutes, she shows up and she said, here's your go-to-market dashboard. That's what I put in the book. That's our actual go-to-market dashboard that was created in 2019. And she literally ran that and said, here's what's happening. And it wasn't, this is what marketing is doing. This is what sales is. No, she's not talking about that. She's talking about business terms. That was so cool. Here's our product usage looks like. And I feel like in the next quarter, if we don't get that up, I think I can see a problem there for us. Here's our pipeline looks like. We have a huge gap there in velocity. We need to figure something out. And then on this side, I think we need to launch new product. So she had the whole go-to-market dashboard that allowed her to talk about what a business should do. She will recommend a few things and she will walk away. In 15 minutes, she's done. And now this is what happened. And I was so fascinated by, which is why I love this. Every single person on the team, regardless of marketing, sales, CS, product, whatever, they all, for the first time, I saw in front of my eyes, become business leaders specialized in their field.
Yes.
And now we're solving business problems.
So, I mean, I wish I'd have had this conversation, 15 years ago. Because again, it's such a debate of what the numbers are supposed to be. And as a CEO, you become a mediator versus, a visionary. You're like, okay, well, I've got to find the middle ground. So what's the correct metric then? If there's one metric that should indicate the success or failure of a go-to-market, what is that metric?
Yeah, it's by far NRR, net revenue retention. There is no other metric that I can think of that can change and help understand the health of the business, the ability. But most businesses, as you know, the reason they don't work is because they run out of money. Like, that's really, it's not a bad product, or they literally run out of money. It sounds stupid to say that, but I've seen it happen. We just run out of money.
So let's talk about that though. If it's NRR, and you're saying then, well, what functions are then responsible or kind of belong in this go-to-market team or function? So
that's a great
I have an agenda because it's super important. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you asked that, Dave. So glad. So initially I thought it was, and this, I'm saying everything just so everybody knows, I'm literally saying I did this. This is not a preaching where we're saying, oh, Kawhi, I don't understand what companies don't. No, I did that at Pardot, at Salesforce, at ET, at I did all this. So there you go. Like, you're talking to the word.
Look, we all, literally, whether you're a salesperson, you're a marketer, you're a CEO, you're a founder on this live stream, we're all doing it. Like, I guarantee, even when we know this, we're still doing this. So
still doing it, right? It happens like deja vu. So initially I thought, Dave, that only sales and marketing are typically your go-to-market teams. And that's how I grew up almost in the industry. So I'm like, that's what your go-to-market team. And we would rarely bring CS into the conversation. So the first and foremost, we have to say, no, your go-to-market team is a much more expanded team. It's not a sales and marketing team. We started calling our meetings go-to-market meetings. So that took away the pressure of sales, marketing, presentation, or anything like that. So it was sales, marketing, customer success, rev ops, and enablement with the CEO in it. So that was the go-to-market team: sales, marketing, customer success, rev ops, and sales enablement. That became and product started. That was too late in the game. As a matter of fact, I even skipped all over in the product on that one. But product was really, really important, because some of the problems we thought sales can solve this. Why don't they do it? And then we had a product leader come into it like, oh, that's interesting. Why don't we create a lighter version of our product?
Yeah, I can solve this. This is an easy problem to solve. Whereas the sales leader's like, what do we do?
Yeah, right. So we are. So if you don't have, I think everybody should recognize that we're not just trying to add more people to the meetings. The thing is, sometimes I've done this, and I'm sure you have seen this as well, is where we try to solve, we think it's a marketing problem or a sales problem or a CS problem or a product problem, but the reality, it's actually a go-to-market problem. So when everybody comes together and looks at that problem, you have no idea. Maybe we are looking at a sales problem, and a product lighter version can solve the entire NRR issue, because now we've created a lighter version of the product that didn't even exist. They just invented in that meeting. Seen that happen too many times.
So it's literally the entire leadership team of the company, and they should meet as a leadership team to say, okay, here's a problem we just faced. Our deal count has gone down. Our deal size is too small. And so, again, I really love this. What you talked about a net NRR. So like parse that out. And in particular, I want to know, like, if I'm a marketer sitting on this, this event right now, they're going to like, why should I be responsible for net NRR? Like, that's not my job. And I can't count how many times I've had this debate with some marketer or some sales leader or some product person saying, look, I built the perfect product. Like, I've generated the best, MQLs. Everybody else sucks. It's not me. Why are you holding me accountable to other people's activity or effort? So like, what is net NRR, and how do you drive alignment in marketing all the way to, product, and some programmer, some engineer on that responsibility?
Yeah, as an analyst firm now, and that's the reason we started Go-to-Market Partners, because we love this idea of trying to help companies do that. And I'm having similar conversations as you're saying. So first of all, let's define what NRR is, what it means, and what comes and how marketing, especially, but everybody should really think about this. And there are ways that you should impact that. So first of all, it's net revenue retention. What does net revenue retention mean? What it means that not only you can sell your product, which is your typically ARR, annual recurring revenue, not only you can have them renew your product, which is GRR, gross retention revenue, is now you can have, you can expand within the existing customer base. That is net revenue retention. It's really an expansion play. And here's why it's important for everybody to understand. And I'm going to just nerd out a little bit with everybody. And if people have pen and paper, just write this down, because this is going to be fun. If I gave everybody two companies, one is a $35 million company, one is a $50 million company. And this is a real conversation I had in a board for thing. Which company is more valuable? And again, in interest of time, I'll just walk through that real quick. But 35 and 50 million, most people will say, well, if everything is same, for like their growth is same, the market is same, the deal size is same, the sales process is same, the timeline is same, then 50 million is a much better company. It has have much higher valuation. And then let's add one more variable to it, that the $35 million company has 120% NRR, and your $50 million company has 75% NRR. Now you might say, well, okay, 75, 120, not sure if it's that big of a deal. Well, here's the big deal. The $35 million company can double its revenue every 5 years without adding a single new customer. Let me say that again. A $35 million company can double its revenue with 120% NRR without adding a single new customer.
I got to pause you for a second.
Yeah.
I think this is the biggest gap and the entire business landscape, like for real, I can't count how many times everyone says, well, how many new logos did you guys acquire? How many, what's your, that one gap. Now you have a metric in the book. I looked it up. It's real. The cost to generate $1 of new revenue versus expanding, basically your existing customer base is 5 times more costly. So not only is it more effective, in that, that business that is expanding, without, spending more cost, you're doing it dramatically cheaper, like crazy amount less expensive. Yet how many times have we given responsibility to marketing and sales to expand an existing customer base? So I get excited when you say this, so I cut you off. Keep going. I want, like, you're in a groove, like, keep going.
And to me, Dave, I wish I would have known about this like 7 years ago. Like I would have done things so much more differently. And going back to your original question of like, why should marketer care about, or somebody else, sales, care about because they're focused on new acquisition? But you absolutely should care about. That's how you lose job. If your company is not able to sustain an efficient growth, and if you haven't heard efficient growth as something your board and everybody has talked about, you're living under a rock, because every company is asking 2023 to be the most efficient growth. You don't have a truckload of VC money coming down. There is no Excel formula for recession. There is no such thing. The reality is you have to get, again, truly customer obsessed. But even that idea was like, yeah, of course I should talk to customers, but what? Now this is a real metric. NRR, if you can expand within your existing customer base, you take off the pressure of the net new logos in this kind of economic situation. It can change the business economics, and the fact that you can double every 5 years without adding a new customer, it is a game changer mindset. So I ask every executive team member, and therefore it might hopefully trickle down, that everybody got to have an NRR number and need to figure out how can they contribute to this number if they want to be part of that efficient growth model.
So there's two. You say something in the book where you talk about small is the new big. Yeah. And I love this idea, because so many times as an entrepreneur or as a sales leader, we make this mistake of like TAM versus there's a different approach. I'm going to have you share here, but like you can burn through. As a marketer, I may say, look, my TAM is there are 6 million companies in the United States alone I can sell to. So I'm going to go buy that email list, and I'm going to start emailing 6 million people, or whatever. Or as a sales leader, I think this is even worse. The CEO comes and says, we got to show rule of 40. We got to show, let's say, a 40% growth year this year. Okay, great. I need this many more quota carriers, and I'm going to just cut my territory up now 8 more ways. And I'm just going to assign quota, and expand our TAM by just hiring quota carriers. Like, right. I think it's an absolute disaster strategy. So what's the right strategy? I mean, I'm telling you, it is a disaster. I've done it. Yeah. It's a disaster strategy. And every CEO does it. So like, what's the right way to do this?
Well, let me make it even worse, because I've done the worst than you. If you have a competition, I think I'm going to win the worst competition.
Pretty sure no, but let's go. Let's bring it.
So I remember this when we were building Terminus early days, and we were raising money. We would go with the TAM, raising money. The TAM idea, the total addressable market idea, is for raising money, is to see if there is big enough market. If eventually we get to this, it's a real way to look at if the market is big enough. Like, so there is a credit to that. But if you build a business plan for that, that's where you fall off. You try to bite off way more than you ever can and achieve. And I actually posted something about this yesterday. I'll go again HubSpot because it's such an easy example for everybody to understand. Dharmesh Shah, one of the co-founders of HubSpot, posted this, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. He said, and it supports the TRM, the idea of going after total relevant market, which we'll define in a second, is that he said, look, HubSpot is $1 billion business right now, but and they have over 150,000 customers today, and they're still less than 10% of the market. And so just think about that. HubSpot, 150,000 customers, $1 billion in revenue, IPO, everything, and they're still less than 10% of the market. What's the point here? The point is that the TAM is big, so there's opportunity for them to grow. But if they only focus on TAM, they would have never gone. They focused on TRM, which is total relevant market. So what does that mean? They started focusing on SMB, first. They said, I'm going to go after SMB. Within that, what else did they do? They started to say that, you know what, the best way to create this faster movement is have an agency partnership. They created a whole agency program to drive their outcome in business. Instead of hiring 100 salespeople, they supported 100 agencies that became their salespeople. So they created a go-to-market motion widely different than any other SaaS company at this of our time of driving their business forward. So total relevant market is an idea to say, you know what? Most companies don't need to sell to 1,000 different companies every year. You don't. You probably need to sell to 100 companies to hit your numbers. And if
okay, I'm going to just share some mistakes that I've made, and I just see every CEO, every marketer, every sales leader like makes the same mistake. And it's this: when I miss my number, the problem is I always want to say I need a bigger market. We need to go into Europe, or we've got to go up market because our market's just not big enough down in the small business space. So I'm a sales leader, I'm a marketer, I'm a customer success person, I'm even a product guy. Hey, we got to go way bigger. A friend of mine is a sales leader. I won't say where, but his CEO and his CRO. So he runs marketing, and it is over $100 billion company. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. And his sales leader came to him and said, "We've got to expand our market size." And he's like, "No, actually, there's plenty of market here. Yeah. We have a product issue, and we have this issue, and we have that issue. So how do you help people solve this problem?"
That's a very good question. Now, it's a very good question, Dave. So I'll give you an example of a customer that we're helping right now. They're in the same marketplace as 3 other companies, and they all feel the same exact thing. Hey, we are being in this $10 to $20 million range, and we have not seen growth for the last 3 years or 4 years. We're just taking one customer, your customer churns, and they come to us, and we're just borrowing from each other. We're in the same cesspool almost, it feels like. And we work with them on something that I wish every company would do it. So it's like free advice for everybody. So where are your top customers? What industry are they in? And they said, well, I think, we probably said, I don't know. They went back, did the research. Nobody does this. This is crazy. Go do it. Go look at it. Yep. If you have $10 million in revenue, you better go and spend a lot of time understanding and parsing your customers. So they went back and looked at and said, oh, seems like we do really well. Our biggest deals, our biggest opportunities seems to be in the field of security, which is not something that particular industry really even focuses on. They are going in the MarTech space where everybody is. In the security, they have no idea. This is like a big deal for them, and they're able to do much bigger deal sizes for them. So we started working with them. All right, let's just focus on security. And they doubled in the last 6 months in that particular vertical, doubled. So all because they focused at that TRM.
So the key is go small and win it. So in my past, we did something similar where, accidentally we came into the gaming industry, which is a small market. That is not how many casinos are there? There's not that many. But it turned into one of our largest markets because we just became so good at it. And if what we do is we combine this concept of small is the new big, like hyper focus and be the best at your one thing. It's this hedgehog concept that is kind of an old adage. And you combine that with your net NRR concept where it's like, look, let's expand. Let's be great in this segment. If it's security, like let's be the best versus everyone wants to be a platform. They go platform before they should. So what are these stages people should be thinking about?
Oh, I love this because this is again a fallacy that we went through. So in the book, we talked about these 3 stages: problem market fit, product market fit, and platform market fit. I love frameworks. So something, it has to either rhyme or start with the same letter.
I think that way too. So just bring it on. Keep it coming.
Right? And in our research, Dave, what we found was you could be a $20 million company and still be in problem market fit, meaning you haven't figured out the right TRM yet. So every single deal is kind of nuanced and different, and you're adding engineering or adding cost to support it. You haven't figured out this repeat model yet. So we have seen companies that are 20 million and still in problem market fit, but that's where you're figuring things out. Product market fit is like the example of this company that we're able to go in security and say, oh, we're going to own this. We're going to have an 80% market share in the security industry. Great. That's now you have a product market fit in one industry. but that's not enough for you to continue to grow. So you continue to do that, but start dabbling into what else. And a platform market fit is where you say, you know what, we do this. Now let's add one more product to it, and see if we can expand, which is your literal case study to get NRR. Your net revenue retention is coming from when you become a platform. But here's the fun part, and I'm sure you've seen that before. We're advising companies. They're just got in maybe 5 million in revenue, and they're like, oh, we're a platform. I'm like, no, you're a feature. And they get so offended by that, because I'm like, I understand as a founder and a product guy, you're going to feel offended about this thing. But here's the thing. You are not a platform. A platform means that to define it, where you have more than one products that have more than one hooks so that you can expand it. Does your customer buy more than one product from you? No, they buy one product. So you're a feature, maybe a product company at most, but there's no way you're a platform company.
Right. So is that a problem? Like if I'm a feature, like, cause I think it kind of offends me. Like, oh, hey, you're still just a feature. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm a platform. Is that a problem for companies? Like,
no, I think so. So let's say an example of Superhuman. Superhuman, an email system that got popularized in the last. I actually use one of them, but I pay $30 a month. It helps me organize my emails, and I'm not buying anything else ever from them. They probably are a great product company. Their retention is over 100% or so, over 90% or something. I don't know how high it was last I checked. So they're doing really well. It's okay, but at some point, companies, people are going to churn. And at that time, you're going to have the only lever you have is to say, well, don't leave us, or I'll give you a price discount on keeping you something, or there's going to be another product who's going to steal it from you. The way to get your hooks in that company is NRR. So you think about why is it hard to rip and replace Salesforce or HubSpot? Well, it's not because they're the most robust and the best products in the world. Like I was at Salesforce and I'm like, man, this sucks sometimes, right? And there are people who would say that too. But
I can't believe you said that. Yeah, but it does at times.
Yeah, it does at times. And at the same time, they have the right ecosystem. It's integrated with every single technology. Now, if I have to replace that and do it, that's a 6-month effort that's going to be out of my business. So they have created these hooks that allows you to continue to keep buying from them, but also by all these integrations, which again goes back to the NRR, which is the holy grail of every business if they want to create efficient growth.
So, okay, we've talked a lot about kind of general go-to-market strategies. And again, just to pitch, like, you can't, it's so hard to see this from the inside. So often you can't see the forest through the trees. Like it's a real problem because you get so stuck in your mindset. So an organization like yours, I mean, you created a new organization called GDM Partners to have a consulting firm to come from the outside and say, you guys, you're missing it. Like you guys are, it's so obvious. Let's pivot just a little bit. What are the right kind of technologies that facilitate? This is the Rev Tech Summit.
Yeah.
We have thousands of people in attendance here. So what are the right kinds of technologies that will facilitate this? And what are the wrong kinds of technologies? And like, what's the timing for this? I know I just threw 3 questions at you.
Well, what's interesting about this is I remember thinking through the biggest iterations of our business that has happened in the last 3 decades. You think about the email flow, like, everybody who's, old enough and have seen things, they know that email was a big deal. It was a big deal when it came out. They used to get, I remember, 80-90% open rate on emails. Like
it changed everything, right?
Everything, right? Yeah. And then a few years later, HubSpot and all these companies came out, Inbound came about and said, okay, you know what? Inbound is a better way. Now that you can do emails, now you can capture leads and you can nurture them, and all of that started to build. And that led to marketing automation. And marketing automation, again, changed the world. And I got to be part of all of those, the Pardot Salesforce ecosystem. Yeah. And then a few years later, ABM came along. It's like, well, it's not just about leads. Leads is not enough. We need to focus on the right accounts because we don't want volume. We want quality. And really ABM became. And now we're talking about go-to-market here, which I believe is the next big iteration in the marketplace or evolution of it. What's interesting about all of it, when I think about revenue technologies, when I think about revenue operations, when I think about revenue intelligence around all of it, is the missing part of all of this was that every one of them had their own little analytics with it. Everyone, marketing automation had little analytics. Inbound has their own analytics. Every single technology that we looked and used has little analytics. Terminus, we have a little analytics thing going on, but it was very much embedded into that ecosystem. It was about just that product. And what Rev Tech and revenue technology is supposed to, the promise for the world with that is that it's going to normalize it. It's going to make sure that you can see it without knowing every little detail of every single product that you have. So the companies who can really abstract out and give a strategic view into what's happening in the business and talk in business terms like Mallory did for us in that first go-to-market meeting, it's going to be a game changer. I think a lot of technologists today are still it just may be a layer abstract from it, but they need to do a really good job to really become a business technology tool, not just another BI tool, like really leverage up and say, no, this is not just a pretty face on it. This has the value. This is going to help you make business decisions. And I'm still waiting for those technologies to come out.
So that's kind of one of my, I mean, we only have another 5-10 minutes. So like look around the corner a little bit. I mean, what do you see? Like, what are the important things that can inform marketers or inform people, these revenue teams to be successful? Like, what are the kinds of, let's not worry about the tech, but what are the solutions people need to be thinking about?
Oh, that's great. That's a great, so technology is hard because that's the part that we talked about. Around the corner, we are looking at we Open Price is one of our customers. I'll give them as an example. And we're looking at them and saying, oh, whoa, they are starting to do and figure out, well, we can actually show value of our products of the entire business within 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes, you can launch, deploy, and start doing some changes that will allow you to see what's happening. And that's time to value.
Yeah, speed to value. That's what I was going to say. Speed to value. Man, that is such an important thing.
Yeah, we just did an ROI study with Sendoso, where 93% of their customers say that within 3 months they see value of it. Wait a minute. So when you add the customer time to value, I think that is a game changer. And I think most technologies are still they're trying to speed up. Some of them are still starting to speed up to deploy. But what they really need to focus on is, what is my time to value? If I can get value in the first 30, 60 days in 2023, your product is already on the chopping block for the next quarter.
Okay, so you just said a swear word for me, which is like deploy. How much of, whether you're selling technology, you're selling like whatever, some service, I think this concept of like, hey, it's installed, it's deployed, it's delivered, like that's useless. In fact, that's a false positive. And I'm telling you, that causes so much misalignment and so many problems. So explain this concept of like value versus deliver.
Oh, big time. So that's why when we were talking about the dashboard that we have in the book, it talks about usage. It never talks about number of installs. Like it has no meaning whatsoever what installs does. Like, okay, why? Okay, we have it's like number of subscriptions. Okay, so big deal. How many people are reading, right? Like that's what you would really look at. The same thing is with this idea of customer time to value. Within first 30 days, have they just integrated stuff, or actually you have created a page and we have a process and they're deployed and they've launched a campaign? So at Terminus, we used to measure it very differently. We said in the first 30 days, they should be able to not only launch a campaign, but measure an ROI of a particular campaign by a certain set of metrics. If they do that, we now know that there is a milestone that we cross. So we created milestones for our customers. And I would ask everybody to think about not customer acquisition, but customer milestones to create that time to value.
Okay, so if everybody listening live and who watch this after the fact, think like write this down, go post about this on LinkedIn or whatever. Milestones are everything, and it's value, milestones that deliver value. Because here's the thing, you can sell anything at any price as long as it's less than the value you're delivering to the customer. So if the customer's like, look, once we bought this solution, this widget, we just generated $100K of EBITDA. Guess what you can charge? You can charge $999 for that $100,000 of EBITDA. So like, if you put your milestones around this metric of like customer value of actually, and it's not what you think their value is, it's what they think their value is, right?
Yeah. And the metric, if you really want to think about it, is time. It's time to value. Like if your value is going to come in the end of the year, That's too late. That is already far away. Just like renewals. When people start, well, we have a renewal problem. Well, when did you start working on it? Well, the deal, the renewal was next month, so we started 30 days ago. That's too late.
Yeah.
That is too late. Renewal process starts 6 months ago. 6 months before, you should have a spreadsheet of all the companies that needs to be renewed. And now you need to start having conversations. So the time to value as soon as you sell and time to value way before renewal is a big idea that most companies are not even thinking about.
So, okay. So we've got, thousands of marketers, salespeople, execs, product people on, watching this again, both live and afterwards in the recordings. Like, give them 3 key takeaways, like actionable one, and I'm going to give you one of them.
Yeah, go for it.
I guess I have a few rights in this. Yeah. So if you're a salesperson and you're pitching, you should be pitching value. If you're a marketer and you're writing an email, it's like, what is the value you actually provide to your customer? If you're a customer success person or you're a support person, you should be thinking, okay, how do I get them to where they're generating their value? And the key here is ask your customer, ask them, what's value to you? If you just don't, if you presuppose what their value is, you're probably wrong. So I'll give you 3 more. That's one. We'll call it 4 today. So what are 3 more key takeaways people can get from your session, and then we'll wrap up.
All right. So I just made a note on that. One is, we talked about this idea of TRM, total relevant market. And again, most companies don't need to sell 1,000 in a year. Like that, you're not a widget for the most part. So probably 100, maybe if you really look into it, maybe 50. And so if you really pull that down, the effort that you really need on that is very different. You need to think about every deal not like a sparkling water or a champagne. You have to decide what kind of experience you're going to do. It's a champagne. Yeah. If it's only those 50, do a champagne experience for them. That may add too many different things. Don't give everybody a sparkling water if that's not the deal, right? So the phrase that I've used for that is saying becoming or being intentional is way more important than being brilliant. Everyone
I love that.
Doing that is trying to be brilliant. Is that there's no need to be brilliant. What we all need to do in 2023 with efficient growth as our mantra is be intentional.
Okay. I love it. Okay. Number 1, be intentional. Think small, not big. High impact, not scale. Don't scale. If you need 50, just do 50 and be amazing at it. Okay. That's number 1. I love it.
Yeah. The second one is NRR. We talked about that, the net revenue retention. If your metric does not align, or if your programs don't align with that, you are at a risk of a job loss. Like, I'm going to straight up tell to people, this is what, if you want to secure your job, if you want to find a way to make your business profitable and efficient, make sure that you have something you're doing to drive NRR, because that is one area that everybody needs to get comfortable with. That's the number 1 metric for every company. And finally, this is something that I've been saying now more than ever before, is I don't know how about you feel about this, Dave, but I have never lost a 6-figure deal when I've met the team and met everyone in person. It just 100%. Doesn't happen. Yep. It's time to get out. There's no Excel formula for a recession. There's no Excel formula for trying to close these deals. Like, we need to get out of our Zoom boxes and do. So that's why we're doing go-to-market roadshows. We're actually meeting people, and people are craving for that. And they don't need 10,000 people. You can do that for 10 people, with 15 people, with 50 people. Get out. It's time to get out of your home.
Well, and look, at the end of the day, I've always said this: people buy from people. They don't buy from webinars. I hate to say it. They don't buy from Zoom calls. They buy from people, and they make a human connection. And when you're in person, nothing beats that. Okay. Truly, what an amazing session today. Thank you.
Honor.
Super generous with your time. How can people, if they have questions, 2 things. If they just have questions, how do they reach out to you? And if they want some help, I know your firm, we've done evaluations. You can come and do an initial analysis. How do they reach out just to ask questions? And how could they potentially engage GTM Partners?
Yeah, you can just go to gtmpartners.com and set up a strategy call. We're doing a strategy call for companies. So we just want to help as many companies as possible to at least have a free assessment, understand where the problems are, and at least point them in the right direction, even if they can't afford us or can't do us, because there's just too many companies and the problem is too big that we don't want to, we want to help as many companies as possible.
You don't need 1,000 clients, right?
Yeah, I don't need 1,000 clients. So we want to help thousands.
you've done that actually for Signals, the company hosting this. I sit on their board. You actually did an initial assessment, and so this is the thing you do. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just go to the website. What if they just have questions? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah,
Are you a LinkedIn person? Are you a Facebook?
Yeah, drop me on LinkedIn. Easy to find at Sangram Vajre. I try to post something every day on it around go-to-market, sometimes about life, but mostly about go-to-market. So that's the best way to connect with me. And as a matter of fact, this was such a great conversation. If you tell me or DM me on LinkedIn and say, well, here's what I learned from today, like the first 10 people to do that, I'll ship you a copy of the Move book.
Okay, wait a sec. I got to go do it. Give me 1 second. I got to go do it. No, go look. The book is super fairly priced. Go if you're not in the first 10, which again, we have people rushing right now to DM you, but go buy it on Amazon. He's not promoting it. He didn't ask me to promote it. I read a lot. I read a lot of books. A lot. This is one of the best business books I think I've ever read. And I say that with sincerity and all authenticity. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the event. This is going to be a content-packed event. Reach out to Sangram. Thank you all. And let's get aligned. Let's think about GTM.
Let's do it. All right, Dave. Thank you. Thanks everybody.
Thanks, everybody.